Life along the border at the U.S. Mexico border has dramatically changed in recent years. Illegal crossings skyrocketed during the Biden administration, but now they have fallen to a 55-year low. CBS News immigration correspondent Camilo Montoya-Galvez joins us now to talk more about that. So, Camilo, you are on the U.S. Mexico border with a firsthand look at how things have changed after the administration's immigration crackdown. I know in your reporting earlier on CBS Mornings, you spoke to someone who said that people aren't crossing because they're afraid. What have you seen?
That's right, Vlad. We have seen a dramatic change here at the U.S. Mexico border under the second Trump administration. At the peak of the border crisis here in Del Rio sector in Texas during the Biden administration in December of 2023, as many as 4,000 people were crossing this border behind us illegally across the Rio Grande, getting past the razor wire. We actually saw people, Vlad, cut themselves in the process of entering the country illegally because of, again, that razor wire set up by the state of Texas. But today, this morning, we saw the first group of migrants during this entire trip cross the U.S.-Mexico border illegally. 2 individuals, presumably from Mexico, they were quickly apprehended by Border Patrol. The agents just left and are now probably processing the 2 individuals for deportation. And that is the policy change that the head of Border Patrol's Del Rio sector says is the main catalyst for the dramatic drop in illegal migration flows here. That the Trump administration, for the most part, Vlad, is not releasing people into the U.S. or allowing them to request asylum. Instead, it is processing people for deportation quickly after they cross or holding them in detention. It truly is a seismic change here at the border, Vlad.
You also have an update on the story of a U.S. Army soldier's wife who's in ICE custody. He was told earlier this week she'd be released from federal custody, but now that is not going to happen. What do we know about what happened and what happens next?
Well, truly, it has been a demoralizing and difficult past 24 hours for Sergeant First Class Jose Serrano. He's also an Afghanistan war veteran. He called me yesterday, Vlad, telling me that he was really happy because he had been told that his wife, Daisy, would be released from ICE custody after more than a week in detention. She was arrested last week in El Paso after attending an immigration appointment. DHS says that she's in the country illegally and that she has a deportation order dating back to 2019. But a few hours later, he called me back saying that it turns out that ICE was instead processing her for deportation to Mexico, where she has no ties, because she cannot be legally deported to her native El Salvador because of a judge's order. So she remains in ICE custody, facing deportation again to Mexico, a third country where she has no relatives, no ties. And the arrest of this military spouse is, again, part of this crackdown on illegal immigration by the administration that they say is working, because you're not seeing a lot of people cross the border illegally.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people, no matter where you sit on the political aisle or political spectrum, would be happy about that, to see those illegal crossings drop to nearly zero. And I know, Camilo, you just witnessed somebody attempting to cross the border. I want you to talk about that. But before you do and before you go, just to reiterate, this young woman who is married to this soldier, she was in the process of dotting her I's and crossing her T's, right? I mean, it's one thing for people who are crossing the border. It's one thing to remove violent criminals, but she was going through the process, if I understand correctly, and was doing what was required, what she was required to do.
That is completely right. Daisy had a pending application for an immigration program, Vlad, known as Parole in Place, that is meant to protect military spouses or parents from deportation if they're here in the country without legal status. And that marriage to a U.S. citizen who is also in the military should typically create a path, a legal path for people to get a green card or permanent residency. But that application has not been adjudicated, and instead of processing her application last week after that appointment, ICE arrested her because of that deportation order back from 2019. And again, the administration says that anyone here illegally, even if they're married to a U.S. citizen who happens to be a veteran of Afghanistan, is subject to deportation. Vlad.
I know you detailed what you saw transpire there just moments ago at the border, but perhaps your crew can just turn and give us a sense of where it happened, because I see the barbed wire behind you. How can someone cross that barbed wire?
Yes. So you can actually see the Rio Grande behind us. You can see Mexico just a few yards away. The two individuals we saw crossing illegally had to wade across the river, essentially swim across it, and then they made their way past Border Patrol. They did not actually have to get past the wire because there's an entry point in this direction that allows Border Patrol to get on their boats and retrieve people who are in the river crossing illegally. So the two individuals we saw did not have to get past the razor wire. But again, Texas and the Trump administration would argue that the fencing here, the razor wire, the concertina wire, are deterring people from crossing here, at least in Texas, illegally.
All right, Camilo Montoya-Galvez, thank you very much. Appreciate it.